Here we are.
Let's check. Instagram. Oh, what the shit. Okay. Well, hopefully it will show it in the correct aspect ratio because my preview basically shows our shoulders.
Okay. Oh yeah, AI viewers. Why would it? Oh yeah, the somebody streaming put up spam.
Yep.
Why would I want AI viewers?
Exactly. Hey, we have a viewer on Instagram. Sorry, I don't know if it's showing our full video or not because the preview it shows me basically gives our shoulders.
Hold on.
Because we broadcast in standard wide stream.
Gunk. No, yeah, no, it's doing the whole thing.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Okay. Then I won't worry about what Instagram's showing me.
It says fixed camera. Somebody's commenting on their fixed camera, but it looks like things are going. Oh, my camera.
Okay.
Lol. Yes, indeed, lol. Oh no, there we go. Yep.
Okay, and we are live on Substack. Let's see, BitChute. Come on, BitChute, catch up.
See shoulders. Yeah, see shoulders.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyone watching can see what we're watching too. Ooh, hold on, I want to check that out. See, okay. See, this is what my phone does.
Oh, I did not see that. Oh. Okay.
If you look very closely, there's a very little Brian and a very little Dave on the phone, in the screen. How far does it go?
I do not know. Okay. Hold on. Oh, there we are. There's BitChute. And there's Kick. And there's Twitch. Okay. So and Harryman, hello.
Yes.
Where's my video tab? Let's hit the intro and
do it.
Do this. Good evening and welcome to episode 25. This feels somewhat momentous, but
yeah.
Episode 25. I'm Brian De Almeida. With me is my long-suffering co-host, Dave. And tonight, our topic is going to be the benefits of failure and why you need to stop rescuing your kids from everything. But first, before we do that, we do our questions 3. So Dave, what have you done this week for self-improvement?
That's a good question. One of my difficulties with this particular question is I'm often working generally to improve on any number of things, but that usually means that I have a difficulty telling what's noise and what's signal. What have I done? I've done. I mean, I've gotten better sleep. We retrieved our children, so now
Better sleep is always a worthy goal.
Yeah, better sleep hygiene is one of those things that I know a lot of the arguments behind why we stay up later doing all kinds of things, and I generally agree with many of them. And also, it's just better to get more sleep, get better sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says better sleep equals success and good something.
Good effort. And
good effort. There we go. I'm looking in the wrong window.
Enough sleep means less intrusive thoughts and suicidal ideation. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. For me, I've been working on expressing my opinion in a way that will not cause problems, because I had yesterday a open meeting of the HOA board.
Oh, good times.
So we had the predictable homeowners who always have lots of things to say show up. And I am one of the youngest homeowners in this community of 86 homes at 43 years old. So we have a lot of people who are in their 70s who have very strong opinions, such as that we need to be actively fining every single person in this community in Salt Lake City in the worst recorded drought in history for having brown spots in their lawns in August, where we've been consistently breaking 100 degrees almost every day.
You've seen pictures of my dog, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You know the color of my dog?
Mm-hmm.
We like to say that most of the year, at least certainly all of the summer, we have a grass-colored dog, because that's the color of our lawn. And for those who are unfamiliar with my 90-pound mogul rug of Love Me, she is very sweet and very large and a really kind of a tan.
She's color. The color of straw.
She's the color of straw, or dry grass, which is what we have right now.
Yes. Well, we're in the middle. We're in a desert in the middle of a drought, and yeah. So I had to work on preparing responses that were not. Are you fucking kidding me?
That was bad, and they should feel bad.
Yeah, and I had to prepare responses because I had to work on proposals for a landscaping project for a little bit of common area that that people demand, but they're also going to have to pay for, which upsets them for some reason. And I had to prepare for criticisms of the amount of time that went into that, because the initial estimates and bids I got for this project were like $55,000 to $55,000, and I was like, that's ridiculous. And through doing research, talking with a whole lot of vendors, and kind of picking and choosing who we have do what phase of the project, I got the total price down to $25,000. I've clocked 44 inches on that. My standard rate for project management is $95 an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm a little over I'm right about $5,000 in billable time on this project that I've done for free.
Yep.
And I actually had somebody say, well, I wish there had been some more care put together in putting together these proposals. And my friend who's on the board with me turns and says, Brian, do you want to handle this? I said, yeah. And so let me explain to you what went into this.
Mm-hmm.
And I would appreciate that if you still think that not enough effort was put into that you keep your opinion to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I said, or if you want to sit here and actively criticize everything about it, then you can start fucking paying my hourly rate.
There you go.
You charge $95 an hour. I said, yeah, and that's cheap. I said, for
Yeah,
a professional project manager?
for a professional project manager, that's unbelievably inexpensive.
I was like, I'm over a full week of work on this in the last 6 months. Oh, I didn't know it was. I was like, yeah, because I could have just called and gotten 3 bids and been like, hey guys, it's going to be $50,000. Instead,
Yeah.
I actually did the thing that I do, and have the cost of it to get the exact same result.
Mm-hmm.
So, kindly,
yeah,
shut up.
Yeah.
Which I was more diplomatic than that, but I've sorry, but I have had to work on not just losing my shit with these idiot boomers who expect that because the houses are now pushing $1 million in value because Salt Lake real estate is inflated and the dollar lost 30% of its value in the last 5 years, that they can have a $1 million looking neighborhood while still paying $100 per year in HOA dues.
No.
No, people, you want that landscaping to reflect that you're gonna have to pay more.
Yep.
And they want everything, and they're very opposed to having to shell out any extra money for it.
I could make several pithy comments here, but we're not talking politics.
No. So I have been working on being more diplomatic and stopping that instant, hey, you know what, go fuck yourself reaction.
Yeah, it's good to have the skills to and ruthlessness to tell somebody to go pound sand, and it's also good to have the skills and the willingness to do it in such a way that they thank you for the experience.
Yes, which they did. It just takes effort, and I'd rather just speak straight to people, but that hurts their feelings.
It's true.
But yeah, Harriman says, would you kindly remove thine head from thine posterior and understand that we're not in the 1970s anymore, you old bitch? Yeah, well, these houses were built between 1990 and 1992. So I'm dealing with people who were my age when they bought these houses when they were built, and somehow think that after 35 years and still keeping all the brass hardware and the orange oak cabinets and everything that they have $1 million house, which they don't. But
see, I like brass, and I'm not even that upset by oak, although the orange is a little.
That 90s orange red oak is terrible. And shiny. I like antiqued brass, or hammer or brass or bronze with a hammered finish.
The issue with polished brass is that takes a lot of work to keep,
and nobody does it.
And nobody does it. Well, because it's a lot of work and it's a pain in the backside.
Yep. So, Dave, what's something that you have fucked up this week?
Oh, God bless. Well, I don't have a functioning range yet, but that's almost certainly a technical issue. I have the receptacle that's wired in, although I'm going to have to unwire it and check the connections again. But more specifically, I have been having a series of conversations with my eldest that I don't know if they're leading to anything useful, because we finally started to get somewhere this morning after his mother left for work, where he thinks that being rude to his parents is a thing that he can do because, well, I'm not feeling happy, and I don't want to be nice, and I want to be upset, and you're rude to me. And I said, well, let's talk about that. How are we being rude? Well, I don't know. males in general have a more difficult time describing emotion if you trust the literature. I know it's hard to get a 12-year-old of any sort to be particularly introspective, and particularly when they're ADD AF, it is also a bit hard to get through to them.
It certainly can be.
And so I know we have had any number of times where it's like, look, I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling in order to pass the threshold of getting your attention.
Yes, and that's very much a thing with neurodivergent kids is when they're focused is when they're hyper focused on something or very intently ignoring something, the threshold to get their attention is high.
And uncomfortable conversations with dad are the kind of thing that nobody really enjoys.
Yep.
Particularly when there's a thread of guilt or shame involved. And while I am not trying to make things worse, there have been any number of times where I've certainly not been trying to make them better. But that, yeah. So there have been a few conversations recently where it's one of those, okay, do you as parents present a united front, or do you try to chide your co-parent in how they are? And I realize co-parent usually typically has a very specific meaning. The person with whom you are sharing parenting duties because you happen to be married to them, for how they are perhaps not relating to your children in the same way you would want them to.
Yeah.
And realizing that they're also their own grown-ass adult who gets to make their own grown-ass adult decisions and live with the consequences thereof. And I have had enough uncomfortable discussions with my wife over such things that I'm often inclined to not try to chide her, but sometimes it's been obnoxious.
And that is, with Mrs. Dave, who is eminently reasonable and very much in control of herself. Trying to do it with somebody who is awful is 10 times as hard.
Yeah, someone who you have to imagine that they are malicious because at a certain level, the line between incompetence and malice is indistinguishable.
Well, there's that line between incompetence and malice. There's also a line between incompetence and humanity.
Yeah, fair.
I would not. I would hesitate to call Mrs. Dave incompetent at anything.
Oh, absolutely. And here I'm not describing my wife, and she would recognize that. The most I would get is, you aren't talking about me, because that's weird, right? I was like, no, I want to talk about you. Have watched friends dealing with situations where they and any number of others. Our proximity to the military means that there are a lot of people who made choices when they were younger that they then learned to regret.
Yeah, that lead to dysfunctional family systems.
Yep. And family plans that require their commands to be involved in things, and lawyers, and when you're both enlisted, nobody's got that much money anyway.
It makes it hard.
It's rough. It is absolutely rough.
So what I fucked up this week would be my sleep hygiene, trying to adjust as school started yesterday. And I woke up this morning and I was like, oh, my head hurts. Went out into the kitchen. I was like, these lights are really painful. I was like, that sounds like a migraine. I was like, oh yeah, great. So got everybody off to school, popped some meds, and ended up having to go take like a 3-hour nap to deal with the migraine because I have to get up earlier than I have been during the summer, and that means I need to go to bed earlier, and that's hard.
Yes, yeah, it is, and I forget that is a thing that is having to happen sometimes,
Yeah.
and especially because the point at which everybody else is asleep is probably my favorite time of the day, because it's quiet and my brain can finally
Do its thing.
finish a sentence,
without interruption.
Mm-hmm.
So what's something you did well?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, that is, I did have that discussion with my eldest, a conversation about, hey, what's going on here, dude? Because look, I don't want to be, I'm not going to pound on you. You and I don't do that, except, because as much as dads and sons tend to do so in a mock gladiatorial manner.
Sparring.
Yeah, sparring.
Sparring is different from beating your child.
Right. In fact, typically I will take far more hits in sparring than I would anything else. But regardless, sitting there going, dude, what is going on here? Why does this seem to why do you feel like this is an okay thing? He said, well, I have an answer after a little bit of coaxing and coaching, and I've got an answer, but I don't think you're going to like it. It's like, I don't care if I like it. I just need you to have an answer. I need you to know what you're feeling and thinking on things.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help you if you're just sitting there going, oh, I don't know.
I only laugh because I'm on teenager number 5.
Yeah. So you not your first rodeo by any stretch of the imagination. And
oh yes, I know that. I don't know. Why are you asking? You're so annoying. Shut up. Leave me alone.
I would say haven't gotten there yet.
He's only 12.
Yeah, I know. I've got like 13 is going to be a magical year, I'm sure.
One of the downsides of your kids being comfortable in your presence and in your house is that they are quite free with their opinions, and sometimes you'd rather that you didn't have to hear all of them.
Oh my gosh.
But that is far better than like the house where I grew up, where I knew that my thoughts and opinions and feelings were not welcome and would only result in punishment. So I just learned to lock everything down and never express anything.
Yeah. But we actually managed to work through that. I mean, he's like, well, the upshot was, he didn't say so in so many words, but he thinks it's partly hormonal. I was like, well, no, ding, 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 ding. No shit, Sherlock. But
that's pretty good introspection for a 12-year-old.
And then I can provide the rejoinder of, yeah, and I get that because I've been there. But at the same time, you're still responsible for the choices you make and the actions you take, right? And I was like, well, yeah, okay. And figuring out how to do things in our family in such a way that he has better ways of expressing his frustration than flat denial or defiance. Because I'm okay talking him around with that, but Petty Officer Pasco is distinctly less good with such behaviors, shockingly.
Yes. Yeah, a common phrase that gets uttered in my house is, hey, you can be angry. You can be upset. What you can't do is what you just did.
Right.
No, it is not okay for you to repeatedly slam your bedroom door and start throwing things because you're upset. You do not get to hurt other people because you feel angry right now. You do not get to break other people's stuff because you're angry right now. Now, if you go and you break your own stuff,
I mean,
well, it's your stuff, but know that I'm not replacing it.
right. Yeah, we've had that discussion, as well as you're living in my house right now, and therefore you're living under my rules, which are really pretty darn lenient in a lot of ways. Yep. One of the things we want to put together is a home gym, so that I can use my weight rack again, which would be nice. But one of the things I've been wanting to have for a while is a heavy bag, if only because I can send the child out to pound on that for a while.
Yep, I finally got one mounted a few months ago. So we have an 80-pound heavy bag, and that is now an option. And it's one that even I've used.
Yeah.
Of course, pounding the heavy bag in the way that I can make it move,
yeah,
may not be the best thing to do in front of the child that has been the reason for the frustration, because
absolutely, yeah.
I can make that fucker move.
Yeah, it's like I have told our kids any number of times, guys, I outweigh you by whole number multiples here. I just have I have much greater mass and muscle strength, and you can't do the same things I do yet.
Yeah, I actually don't outweigh any of my kids by 100 pounds anymore.
Yeah, well,
again, mine are older.
Yours are older, and Kampfschweg.
Yes, that okay. For those of you who don't know, Kampfschweg is the German word that translates as battle dwarf, which is one of the things I used to tease Dave, because he's like 5'7". He's not actually that short, but
I'm for a while I was at the bottom end of average, and then after a few years, the average height got moved back up because people were eating better, and
yeah. So for something I did well. Shoot, what was it? Oh, I had an interaction with my in-laws' neighbors today. So I had to go over to the lot and and go cut down all the weeds, because we haven't broken ground yet. We just submitted the building permits. So hopefully breaking ground in 4 to 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But I had to go over there, and I had to go I put up some signs: no trespassing, no dumping, because I found somebody has been dumping fill on their building lot. Not a lot, probably 2 or 3 yards. And whoever did it used a bobcat to smooth it all out and make it look like they didn't dump. I'm amused by that. I was like, okay, let's put up some signs, and the contractor's going to put up some gates.
Yeah.
But the next door neighbor came out and wanted to talk to me, and because I guess they met my in-laws when they were in town, and so I talked with them, and she has 3 little boys who are 2, 4, and 6.
Oh.
She says, "Oh, I saw those people. I thought you guys were starting construction." It's like, nope, that was not us. Because my boys are really excited to see the house go up.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm going to be walking the site at least once a week. If I happen to come by after the workers have left, would it be weird if I knocked on your door to walk your boys around the construction site and show them what's going on and answer questions? She was like, no, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Are you kidding? She could sit down and not do anything for like 10 whole minutes.
Yeah, I was like, so when do you put them to bed?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh, they go to bed about 8:30. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be coming by that late normally, but if I'm coming by at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and nobody's working, I said I will absolutely knock on your door and see if your boys want to go and take a look at what's going on with the house up close.
Yeah, because honestly, putting together a house is a fascinating process.
Oh, it is.
It
And for
really
little boys, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they have they actually have step ladders set up against the back fence so that they can watch when the excavators are working and stuff.
Yeah, earth movers,
They're
man.
they're very excited.
I still get excited by earth movers.
Yeah, so I picked up on the social cue and the opportunity to build bridges, and I'm not
Yes.
always the best at that because I tend to be very, very task focused.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
So
well done.
I'm gonna give myself a plus for that.
Definitely.
So on to our topic, which again is the benefits of failure. So
Yeah.
Dave, why is failure necessary? Not only for us, but especially for our children.
Failure is the way we learn best. Humans depend on adversity to grow. In the same way that a hothouse flower can basically wilt overnight when it's put put outside in the wrong conditions, which is for a greenhouse is going to be most conditions, most places.
Yeah.
You need to be your kids. You want your kids to be dandelions, not hothouse orchids.
Yes. Yeah. The term that gets used in psychology a lot is distress tolerance.
Yes.
And you have to work at helping your children build their distress tolerance because
Mm-hmm.
doing something poorly, failing to meet expectations, does not feel good.
No.
And our natural inclination, it's the response. You touch the hot stove, you pull your hand away. Our natural inclination is to go, oh, that is unpleasant, I don't want to do that again.
Right.
And what happens when somebody as a child constantly has that impulse indulged?
They can't deal with challenge.
Yes. They cannot deal with distress.
Mm-hmm.
They turn into a crying puddle and they give up.
Yep.
Or they demand that, or they sit there and throw a tantrum and demand that the world accommodate them because they should not have to feel distress.
Right.
Yes. And Harriman says, part of that is getting kids outside and exposed to life itself, and also both giving them things to try while encouraging them through frustration so they learn to persevere.
Yep.
Exactly. That is, I did a Substack post a while back, doing the hard things.
Yes.
You have to push your kids into doing things that are difficult,
mm-hmm.
because you have to build that distress tolerance. You have to build that familiarity with the process of learning through screwing up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, your children don't function when you release them out into the world. And that's how you end up with basement gremlins who don't feel like they need to get a job and are offended by the notion that you expect them to be doing something with their life and to make some sort of contribution to the house. Like, if you're living here, sorry, you're still going to be assigned chores. Don't care if you're 20 years old. And
if you're living under my roof when you're 20, we're going to be talking about rent.
Not me.
Outside of specific circumstances. If it's because you're going to school and at a local institution, awesome. That's your rent. If it's because you don't feel like getting a job, well, that's going to be a little bit harder sell.
Yeah, I mean, this has been the discussion with my kids, especially as I have one who's now out in the world and two who finished high school, who just started their senior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Is you have a room here, you can stay here.
Mm-hmm.
The expectation is that you are doing something with yourself.
Yes.
That that you are actively engaged in building a career, building towards self-sufficiency, going to school. I mean, as it stands right now, of my three daughters, one will be going to community college, the other is building a dog training business, and the other is working on her tattoo artist apprenticeship and is a ski and snowboard and BMX and skateboard and mountain biking and trampoline and parkour instructor.
Seriously, one of the coolest people I know.
Dude, she is. And it is really awesome when your kid who's now an adult and has moved out is actually somebody that you want to spend time with.
Right.
And if they want to spend time with you, then I call that a significant measure of success.
Absolutely.
But one of the things Harman pointed out there is encouraging them through frustration, because there is a difference between productive struggle and absolute chaos.
Right.
I'm sure you knew kids who you went to school with that their home life was absolute chaos. Parents were absent or active negative influences who did not help provide structure. Just do whatever. Parents were generally pretty screwed up themselves, and they were just kind of left to fend for themselves with zero support, which meant they struggled with everything. But part of that learning process there is you need time to be able to decompress and to do the after action review.
Yes.
Let me just borrow the term from the military because it's the best one.
Yep.
Okay, what did we learn from this?
Yeah. What did we screw up?
What did we get wrong? How do we not get that wrong again?
What did we do well? What can
also
we do next time?
Yeah.
What can we train? What do we do right that was accidental? What do we do right that was intentional? How do we better build those habits and systems so that we're doing more things better than we were previously?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
If they're just thrown into pure chaos and never get a chance to breathe, what they do is they develop a whole bunch of really unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Yep.
That if or when they get themselves into a more stable position in life, they then get to spend the next 20 years trying to unravel those.
Yep.
I might know a thing or two about that.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, and there are plenty of oh, God bless.
Herman says, zero parental presence? I know that as Gen X parenting done by boomers. Goading and favoritism / making one child the golden child is also a hazard in parenting. Yeah, I saw that too, where there was one kid who received all the attention, all the support because they were the good child, and the others were, well, you disappoint me.
And that's tough. I was the easy kid. My parents basically knew that the worst I was going to get up to was staying up too late to read the novels I'd picked up at the library. Whereas my younger sister was a lot harder to deal with at certain points in our growing up time. And how do you not appreciate that dichotomy in certain ways? And frankly, it often really wasn't fair to her because she was, and not because my parents were particularly favoritist on in regards to how they treated us, so much as the rest of the world was. It's hard not to feel crappy about yourself when your older sibling is clearly plenty intelligent, and that is made known by, like, everybody in the small town knows them and that they are. And
Yeah, and when you have teachers go, I remember, why aren't you more like your brother?
I hope none of my teachers did that to her. I really do.
They probably did, at least once, somebody.
She was also way more popular than I was, so I kind of feel like it evens out, that there's some evening out, but that may just be a certain amount of the grass is greener feel. I have no idea, but it's,
Yeah, and Hardiman hits it again. It hurts from both ends of the golden child and scapegoat dynamic. If you're the golden child, the only expectation you have is living up to the parents' vision of who you are to them, which, if you are like one of my siblings who was the golden child but was too independent minded to just follow along with the program mom and dad had decided was best for you, that induces a whole bunch of stress.
Yeah, well, there's certainly going to be a transitional period of, well, now you're the black sheep suddenly, except we can't let your older brother not be the black sheep too. How do we deal with this?
I was less of a black sheep during that period because I just had two adorable children.
Yeah. Yes, producing grandchildren first is in less functional households is an amazing way to suddenly become well regarded.
Yeah, well, it didn't last.
Clearly.
Because I'm bad inherently.
Right.
I mean, like, even as a teenager, I was not a bad kid. A lot of stuff that other kids got into, I had zero interest in, because I had zero interest in getting citations for, drinking underage, or being, even having a little bit of weed, or possibly fathering a child.
Right.
Because most of the way through school, at least until my junior year when I had to get classes to be able to continue driving, my goal was the Air Force Academy. I want to go be a fighter jock.
Yeah, it's
hard to do. And
hard to do that when you have glasses.
Yeah, that was a disqualifier. I was like, oh, cool, I don't need to get a 4.0 anymore. And that really pissed off my parents. But I was like, I don't see the reward in putting forth full effort on this. A B+ is good enough for me.
Right.
And then I went and I engineered things to graduate with a 3.49 GPA. So I was 1/100th under the threshold to graduate with honors, just to piss them off. Because that was my thing. I wasn't actually a bad kid, but I was a defiant little asshole. And I will own that. I mean, really, you could stick my picture next to the definition of oppositional defiance disorder. Like, I will go and do something because you told me not to, not because I actually wanted to begin with.
Dude, spite is a hell of a motivator.
It can be. And as a teenager in the throes of the biological insanity of puberty, spite was a hell of a motivator.
Yeah, I'm young and I'm immortal, and no one can stop me at doing what I want to do.
And I didn't even want to do stupid shit.
Right.
I just wanted to, not have a curfew that varied between 9:30 and 11:30, depending on how happy my parents were with me that day.
Yeah. But as far as failure goes, as far as adversity, as far as making mistakes, I have this is one of those things that it has taken me something like, God bless, well over 40 years. Oh, goodness.
Harvey says you have no idea how hard it is to not be 1,000% sarcastic about oppositional defiance disorder right now. Which I actually had to check with my wife. It is in the DSM-5 still.
It is. Yeah, it is. As far as making mistakes, I have spent the vast preponderance of my life trying to convince myself that mistakes are not moral failures. Because it's very easy for me to get things right, and always has been. But it's harder to do things that involve risk, that involve potential conflict.
Risk to your ego.
Yeah, dude, ego risk is hard, especially when you're a smart kid or a gifted child growing up.
Former gifted child.
Former gifted child. Yes. Especially growing up when nobody knew how to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because you don't typically make mistakes.
Not major ones.
No. I broke down in tears the first time I got less than an A on a report card.
You were that kid.
I was that kid. I was absolutely that kid. Yeah.
I have a couple of those.
Yeah.
So I want you to think of a specific example of where failure taught you something that success never could have. And I have one. I remember very clearly. My daughters, I think, were 3 and 4, and they were doing as siblings do. They were fighting. They were fighting with each other. I think I had been awake for 60 to 70 hours at that point, because we were in the week before BYU started its school semester. So I had a ton of tenants moving in. I had a couple of units that, they're moving in tomorrow, not next week, like is on the schedule. So I had to go in overnight and paint the unit or do other emergency repairs that were on my schedule for the next week, because these people are showing up at 8 o'clock in the morning and they need to move into a fully functional apartment. So I was probably on my 3rd day of being awake. So obviously not at my best. And my kids were being obnoxious. Their mom was at work, and I could not get them to stop until I lost my shit.
Mm-hmm.
These little children, I got in their face, I screamed at them.
Yep.
And, I'm not proud to admit that. And the thing that stopped me is they were scared.
Yeah. Seeing fear on your child's face that you have put there is sobering.
That shut me right the fuck down.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there is one emotion that I associate with my dad, who I think at that time had just recently died. They may have been a little bit older than 3 or 4. But the primary emotion I have associated memories of my dad is fear.
Yeah.
Because he lacked the emotional maturity to not take his frustrations from work home and then take them out on us. And me being the oldest and most obnoxious child, I got the lion's share of that. And I realized my girls are scared of me.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I said, "Girls, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be yelling at you for this, but I really need, I'm exhausted. I feel terrible. I need some peace and quiet. I need to try to get some sleep. You guys need to go to bed."
Mhm.
and I'm sorry I yelled at you. And they were like, what?
Yeah.
It's kind of that whiplash effect. They're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that was, I mean, that was the point where I resolved that if I accomplish nothing else as a parent, my children will not be afraid of me.
Hmm.
And that was the moment that put me on the path where now I'm fucking running a podcast talking about parenting and how to be a better parent as if I know what I'm doing.
You know,
But
it, yeah, and I honestly believe that pretty much every parent who is actually dealing with real life has had a moment where they've had to look at themselves and say, I fucked that up. I scared my child um, inappropriately. Look, there are times where your toddler starts to run into the street and you snatch them up, and whether there is any form of corporal punishment or not is depends on the literature apparently these days. Um, but the startling them out of poor behavior is incredibly effective. Um, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is my anger crossed the line
mhm,
into what is biblically referred to as wrath. Uh,
yes, actually, I really like that.
yeah, and there the fear of, oh my gosh, like I I have this distinct memory of my oldest being very small and putting his hands over his ears at one point because daddy was way too loud. Um, a little bit later, he would put his hands over his eyes when he'd done something that he felt was inappropriate, because then he can't see it and we can't see him. But which is far cuter,
Hmm.
but is still a bit of the has always given me pause.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't like having been that guy.
no, I if I look at things objectively and I look at how I'm able to relate, particularly with my two biological daughters.
Hmm.
Fortunately, my stepkids really didn't get exposed, really never have been exposed to that side of me because I had learned to do better by then.
Yeah.
At least not to, certainly not to that degree. I'd still be an asshole sometimes. We all have days that we are not 100% on game, but I can tell you I've never gotten in their faces and screamed at them. But for me, when I realized, holy shit, this is how I looked at
Hmm.
my dad
Yeah.
for decades. That was it. That was a transformational moment because that's where I resolved they will not be afraid of me.
Yeah.
I may screw up everything else. I will not have my children fear me.
Yes.
And I can look at things objectively, and I can say I think I've made up for that
Yeah.
for having at one time been that dad. But you know
Hardiman.
what? I still feel like shit every day for it. Every
Oh yeah.
time I think about it, I still feel like an absolute shitheel.
Well, and Hardiman is absolutely correct in this. I behaved because I was terrified of being punished. Should not be uttered by children. There are indeed better ways.
That is
Um,
correct. And
the the way that I, growing up, I was terrified of hearing, "I'm disappointed in you," because my dad figured out a better way.
mhm,
Um, I'm trying to do slightly differently with my kids because I think that there are still some issues with that one. but it's substantially better than what he got when he was young.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a whole thing in understanding developmental stages, and the point at which a child is really only capable of learning. If I do this, this happens, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
And the point at which they start to develop a concept of morality and ethics, and where you can start teaching them why this is bad.
Right.
And it varies from kid to kid. It's somewhere around age 4 to age 8.
Yep.
Your kids start being able to understand those more complex thoughts, and that abstract why this is bad, as opposed to, if I do this, I'm going to be sent to the corner, or I'm going to be sent to whatever the consequence for that action is. There is a point when children are small where the only thing that they can really learn is, if I do this thing I've been told not to do, I'm going to receive this consequence.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you continue to apply that model to a 10-year-old, to a teenager, and just ignore the fact that they are capable of conceptualizing and gaining a better understanding, which helps them form their own system of morality and ethics as they grow and become independent, you are not helping them.
No.
Which we can probably do an entire episode on that.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's precisely why I am so thrilled that my older two are now at a point where I can have a more rational discussion with them on a lot of these topics. I would far rather talk them into obedience.
Yes. You want them to choose to do what is right because it is right, not because Dad's going to beat my ass if I don't.
That right there, you want citizens to choose to do what is right because it is right, not because the government, in the person of law enforcement, is going to throw them in prison. Dude, that's human civilization and human history, and
in a nutshell.
We still don't have really satisfying answers.
Nope, we don't. But we need to move on to helicopter parenting as active sabotage. We talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago with Dave and Andres. I believe I referred to helicopter parents as neurotic fuckwits.
In so many words, yes.
No, in those exact words.
Yeah, well, and neurosis is hard to deal with. As someone who scores pretty high in sensitivity to negative emotion, which is what that term means, it can be terrifying to watch to know that you have to let your kid do things to learn and watch and let them fail at stuff.
Yep.
Let them not do optimally.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's define what we mean by helicopter parenting.
Okay.
Because there's lots of conceptions about it. I want to be clear as to what we are addressing as helicopter parenting, and that is the parents who are always hovering around, who often almost cannot allow the child to be out of their sight, because they have to be right there to rescue them from everything. And when they're young, you can see it on the playground, the mom or the dad, so they both do it, hovering right there to catch them at the bottom, to catch a 5-year-old at the bottom of the slide, because they might tumble off the end and they might skin their knee or something. Where the kid's quite capable of managing themselves. On the playground equipment, they still have to stand right there.
Right.
It's different when you have a kid who can barely walk, who's on the playground equipment, because he's likely to just fall ass over tea kettle and actually harm himself.
Yeah.
But a child that's generally capable of those maneuvers, and they still have to be right there when they go to school. That's the parent who calls up and yells at the teacher because the kid got an 8 out of 10 on today's quiz.
Right.
Or in high school, the parent of the kid who turned in only half of their homework for the semester, and 3 days before grades are finalized, the parent is screaming at the teacher demanding that they be allowed to turn in this work because their child has to get an A.
The possibly apocryphal stories of parents calling basic training to try to get in touch with their child's drill instructor. I hope these things never actually happen, because that child is in for a world of hurt.
I have known a few Army and Marine drill instructors, and those have happened.
Oh, God bless.
And I'm sure Army, Air Force, Navy training's bad enough, but you know how the Marine Corps is not a military service; it is a cult.
Yes.
And Paris Island is its Vatican.
I love Marines.
I do too.
As a rule, I know a bunch of Marines who have gotten out, who are medically retired, who have done their time and retired honorably. They are almost universally excellent people, for all that they are screwed up. But that is definitely, Marine is a capital M part of their identity. And
it is.
It's, yeah.
I have a friend who was an instructor at Paris Island who somehow a recruit's mother managed to get through the switchboard to her, the chief drill instructor.
Oh, no.
And imagine being a Marine drill instructor at Paris Island as a 4-foot, almost 11-inch, about 110 pound.
I've seen pictures of her in uniform. This woman was petite,
diminutive,
slight. Yeah.
So, and as a chief drill instructor, getting this phone call, I need you to be nicer to my child. He said in his, they said in their letter that that your drill instructors are really mean and it causes them distress.
Yes.
Especially at Paris Island, that ensures that recruit is selected to ensure that they are toughened up, because they obviously need it.
Yeah. If they're going to look, the fastest way to get out of basic training, to get out of boot camp, is graduation.
Yes. I can't speak from experience.
Having been through it, it's the fastest way to do it. There were guys there who I encountered who had been at recruit training command for nearly a year for an 8-week course. Medical hold will do it. Anything related to psych stuff, but you could be incompetent enough or bad enough at things, at getting with the program, to have to start over. And that just means you're there getting yelled at longer. Look, it's all a mind game. Just suck it up and do the thing. Get through with it.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I mean, we see the results of this kind of helicopter parenting all over our social media feeds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all in the news.
The pejorative that gets mostly thrown around, although I think it's falling out of style, is snowflake. These kids who literally cannot handle somebody having or voicing an opinion different from their own, to the point that they are throwing tantrums because somebody is allowed on campus who disagrees with them.
Yeah.
Okay, where's my mouse pointer? Yeah, Harriman says, recruit candy ass, your mother is on the phone right now. You are going to do push-ups until her stupid dies and call out those numbers so she can hear what her call has caused. That would,
yeah, that's
I think that is representative of the type of reaction that would get. But we've mentioned before, we have a good friend who's a college professor, and he regularly gets calls and emails from concerned parents of their child in their 20s. I need to talk to you. I think you're being too harsh grading. Or this project is too difficult. You did not give enough time for this.
Yeah, your child knew about this on the first day of class. They were aware. They were presented with the syllabus. They were presented with the schedule. They were presented with the metrics. Here's what you need to do to get a passing grade. They only turned in half of the project. That does not earn them a passing grade.
I was hiring for an industrial maintenance technician, entry level, looking for somebody with basically mechanical aptitude and interest rather than experience, because I was going to have to train this person, especially at what HR would let me pay them.
Yep.
I had a 24-year-old kid who had 2 vocational certificates. His mother showed up to the job interview with him. No. She objected most strenuously when I said, no, the interview is with your son. You are not part of this. Well, I said, ma'am, your son is an adult. And if you want him to have an opportunity at this job, you need to promise that this is my last interaction with you, save there be some sort of emergency in which he is unable to communicate with me. I said, because I will be his boss. And me and my maintenance supervisor will be his bosses. We will be training him and we will be correcting him. And I am legally prohibited from having those discussions with another party because he is a legal adult.
Yeah.
He said, you are not part of this interview and you will not communicate with me further should he be hired unless it is an emergency in which he is unable to communicate. And she said, well, we are leaving. I said, okay.
Okay.
Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out.
Right.
I mean, I've heard of this happening in 20 years of hiring and firing people. I had it happen once.
See, that's comedy sketch.
It is, but it happens in real life.
And
we see it. And let's talk about the psychology behind this, because really the issue here is the parent's unmanaged anxiety.
Yes.
Now, having anxiety about your child and their success and whether or not they're going to be treated fairly and whether or not they're going to be emotionally or physically harmed is valid. Every single one of us have to do. I mean, you send a kid to public school, you are sending them into an environment where emotional torture is a rite of passage, at least in junior high. I mean, you are putting them in an environment where actually it's the environment where they are most likely to have a number of quite terrible things possibly happen to them. Having anxiety about that is normal.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It is completely normal to have anxiety about letting your child into the world and allowing them to be in situations where they can be harmed.
Yep.
If you express that anxiety by attempting to control every aspect of their environment and immediately swooping in to rescue the child from every possibility of experiencing harm or failure, you are sabotaging your child's future because you are creating a person who is unable to develop an independent identity and who is unable to endure normal amounts of distress.
they have to be able to resolve issues on their own. And that means they're going to screw up.
Mm-hmm.
At least a few times, probably more than that.
I mean, if they're anything resembling normal, they're going to screw up a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Generally in small ways that are pretty easily manageable.
Yeah.
But and there have been times where I've dealt with a teacher who was manifestly dealing with my child unfairly, and I've called them out on that. And I think once I sent a letter to an employer reminding them that they were in clear violation of the state's child labor statutes, and that as the legal guardian of my child, I am concerned about this and intend to ensure that the state labor board is informed and that issue is resolved, because you were doing damage to my child. Mm-hmm. I've never intervened where my manager's a dick,
right?
But where they were clearly violating violating limits that are put in place as to number of hours that a 14-year-old can work in a freaking amusement park. I did, in that one case, say, hey, you guys are way the hell out of line with law here, and you need to fix it, and I'm going to go to the appropriate regulatory body to ensure that it is.
Yeah.
And suddenly my 14-year-old was not scheduled to work a noon to midnight shift at the entrance booth to an amusement park.
Okay, yeah, that's
like that was egregious.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So that was it is appropriate sometimes to intervene.
Absolutely. Look, when I was waiting to go into the military, I had already graduated from college at this point. I had a bachelor's.
You had a degree in philosophy.
Yeah, which, it makes sense then that I got a job making pizza dough. I screwed up. Like my first day, I didn't show up because in my defense, I didn't know I was supposed to. And also, it was sure nice to be then, I got to spend a really uncomfortable morning with the manager of that particular franchise, who was quite obviously pissed at me for not being there and forcing a bunch of extra hours of work on him that I got to help him do. On the other hand, I was never late for a shift after that.
You learned.
I got really lucky. It would have been no skin off his nose to just drop my ass.
So you didn't show up for your first day of work. Fuck off.
Yeah.
That's valid.
Yeah. And at the same time, when I was about ready to ship off, and I was like, "Hey, Gary, I'm out of here in my ship date is less than such." He's like, "Dude, if by any chance you are not doing that, let me know. I'm gonna put you through management training."
Yeah. And Harmon points out another side of this. Helicopter parenting is also a failure of the mother or father to understand their child must grow into an adult who can live on their own.
Yeah.
And that's something we've discussed before, because what is our goal in raising children? Is it to have perfectly obedient children that we can show off at church at how well spoken and polite they are and how impeccably dressed they are?
Oh goodness, not precisely.
What is your actual goal for your impudent 12-year-old son, Dave?
My goal for him is that he can eventually support himself by holding down a job or starting a business and learning through how to make money by making lots of mistakes and not making money, to the point where I don't have to worry about his next meal because he's worrying about his next meal. Like,
Yeah.
I eventually would like grandchildren. I don't want my children to grow up in so dysfunctional that my grandchildren end up little monsters.
Yep. I mean, the way that I described it to my oldest daughter's therapist, and we finally found her a good one.
Yeah.
She was like, "What is your goal here? Beyond getting her to survive through the high school years, because that was not certain. She
Yeah.
was my daughter was seriously not doing well at all."
Yeah.
And my response was, I want her to grow into a happy, healthy, independent adult.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, in expressing their own anxiety over their kids and how they're going to turn out and how they reflect on the parent, because the parent is functionally not emotionally mature.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have a stable concept of self themselves,
Yes.
is one of the underlying things here. But they go through expressing all their anxiety over their child by rescuing them from everything and always being there, and they do not create adults who are capable of managing themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, because at some point you're not going to be there to rescue them. You may be like my paternal grandfather, who's like 93 and still perfectly functional. I mean, honestly, you could. He was a machinist with Lockheed. He worked on some really cool. He actually machined, among other things, the exhaust nozzles for the escape tower on every single Apollo command module.
That's super cool.
Because that was a sub-assembly provided by Lockheed.
Yeah.
And the Saturn V was so fucking big, you don't realize that little tiny escape tower on top. There's a picture of my dad at like 10 years old standing inside one of them.
Yeah, they're enormous.
But I mean, honestly, my grandfather today could walk into a machine shop still, and would still be quite handy with the manual lathe and mill that he earned his bread and butter on and his pension
For decades.
Yeah. His hands still don't shake. I think his hands are steadier than mine most of the time, and he's like 93. Or you can be like my dad, who just before his 50th birthday found out he had a tumor growing in the center of his brainstem, and died 11 months later at 51 years old. At some point, you're not going to be there. I've always known that I might not. I've always figured that if I could see my kids graduate from high school, I was going to be really lucky. With a liver transplant at 21.
Considering what the prognosis your mom was given,
don't let him have children.
Right. Dude, you've beaten all the odds at this point.
But I've always known that in a couple of weeks I could be gone, and my kids no longer had me.
Yeah.
So I may have been more focused on this than other people. But at some point, your kids have to be able to sink or swim on their own.
Yes.
You're not always going to be there. You can't rescue them, because what you turn them into is incompetent, non-functional adults who end up as long-term dependents on you. Or you end up like a friend of mine who last week I went over to sign papers as the witness that she had served eviction papers to her adult son, who's refusing to participate, to help in the household in any way, or get a job, or do anything to push himself forward.
Mm-hmm.
Which there are a whole bunch of mitigating factors that were in place when that particular child was an adolescent. But also, his older sister has turned out quite well.
Yeah.
But you don't want to set up the conditions for you to have to do that.
Absolutely. If your child makes choices on their own, I have a cousin who engaged in a lot of risky and poor behaviors for a lot of reasons, and he's had a rough time, and he's getting his life back on track, and actually at the point of where he's doing pretty darn well right now. But his parents went through some rough moments, several rough years where he just didn't want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah. I know somebody who's very smart. Breezed through his undergrad program, made it into med school, made it through med school,
Mm-hmm.
and was fired from his residency program because he kept showing up hours late, because the stress of residency turned him into a severe alcoholic. Where the man as a resident was practicing medicine drunk, and had graduated from the what is the term? It's not controlled alcoholic, or
functional.
From functional alcoholic to non-functional alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up moving back in with his parents, going to rehab, and eventually got things together. But he can't practice medicine, and he still has all the student loans to pay for med school.
Yeah.
And his parents provided a landing pad. They provided the support he needed to get back on his feet.
Mm-hmm.
But his parents are not offering to cover his loans, or well, you know what? You did this to yourself, and I'm sorry, but we can't insulate you from the consequences of that.
You ever read the Millionaire Next Door?
No.
A lot of data that would almost certainly not surprise you at all. One of the predictors of effectively financial maturity in adults is whether or not they are provided what the authors call financial outpatient treatment, where the parents, take care of, they pay their mortgage, or they pay for the grandchildren's private school tuition, but functionally they're still partly financially supporting their adult children, and that becomes a distinct problem.
I can see that in people I've known.
That was happening before the term helicopter parent came into vogue.
Yes, it did.
That's the kind of thing that has happened for decades and decades.
Centuries.
Yeah. There are things that you can do as a parent to set your children up well. The things that you can give them, like resources that you can give them in terms of finance and property, real property, etc. But you still have to, at some point, step back and say, and these are your responsibility. You do what you choose to do with them. And if you screw it up, I'm not going to swoop in and make things right.
Yeah, my oldest daughter has moved out. She's working a fairly entry-level job,
Mm-hmm.
Which sometimes when I look at that and go, you're making more than I did in most of my 30s. But the dollar's lost 45% of its value since I was making less than that per hour. But she's paying her rent. She's saving up money for a car. She did not do
Mhm.
driver's ed during school, so she's responsible for paying for her own driver's ed to get her driver's license. And
Yep.
there were completely legitimate reasons that I supported that she did not get her driver's license then, because she had some medical stuff going on that, I mean, functional narcolepsy due to untreated sleep apnea. No,
Yep.
you really should not be driving, and I'm not going to complain about driving you around even though you finished high school in
Right.
that particular case. But she's got to pay for a driver's ed program. She's on my medical insurance, which because we are self-employed, we're stuck paying tons of money for a marketplace plan that has a massive deductible.
Yep.
When she finally was able to get in for a sleep study and most of that was deductible for the year. We paid that because the deductible we kind of look at as our responsibility, because that's the plan that we're on. But like her visit copays, she pays those.
Yeah. Look, so long as that stuff is spelled out, I don't see it as being a huge issue.
Yeah. It doesn't mean the end go, adios kid, you're a grown up, fuck off.
And we have friends who got that treatment.
We have friends who got that treatment at 14.
Yes.
Well, you are now legally employable, so I'm not buying you a fucking thing.
Yeah, get out of my house.
Stop buy your own food, buy your own clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Stop being a drag on me. That's not what we're advocating.
No. What our job is as parents is to teach things like personal responsibility and accountability. When you screw up, you get to fix it. Mm-hmm. I will support you in this, but I am not going to
rescue you.
I'm not going to beg special treatment for you when you have gone out of your way to make a problem for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I will be happy to advise you.
I'll be happy to help you figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to listen. I'm happy to listen to your frustrations with the bullshit that is being an adult.
Yep.
And some of it, even as a responsible adult, feels like real bullshit.
Yeah. Paying taxes sucks, man.
Don't start me on that rant.
We've talked about that briefly in other places. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when your kid starts making something approaching grown-up money, and they see that they just had 28% whacked off of their income, they're like, "This is bullshit. This is a quarter of what I made."
You're damn right.
Like, yeah, you're right. It is.
Absolutely correct. You know what's fun? If you want to start your own business at some point, you're going to have to pay even more.
Yeah. Or if against all odds you manage to become financially successful, just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait until you realize that you're paying more in income taxes every month than your fucking mortgage.
Yep.
That was an eye opener. And perfectly honest, that was a great problem to have.
Right. Absolutely.
But still, it was holy fuck.
Mm-hmm.
This is bullshit.
Yeah. Look, having to take time off of work to go down to renew your driver's license and end up standing in line for 3 or 4 hours.
Yes, that's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, so you can commiserate with them.
Absolutely.
You can help them figure out. You can give them the benefit of your experience without rescuing them from everything that is distressful. Which it takes discipline on your part to be able to sit there with your kid when they're upset and they're enduring, sometimes just normal bullshit of life. Sometimes the consequences of their own choices.
Yeah.
Without just rescuing them because you want to, because you've been there. It feels shitty.
Look, I don't like levying consequences on my children because they have made poor choices.
Yes, I hate it. And I have to make myself do it because it's how they learn.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in uncomfortable conversations, but sometimes there's just, you did exactly the thing I told you not to do. I know why you did it, but now you're going to lose a privilege for a while.
Yes, you abused the privilege given to you, and now I am required to limit it because you are obviously not capable of handling it with total freedom.
Yeah, we're talking about, we had a serious conversation on the drive up to retrieve our children. My in-laws took the kids for about a week and a half, so my wife and I could work on the house, which we are getting closer.
Yeah, I've got to look at flights tonight, actually.
Yeah. All right, groovy. But we're talking about phones because one of the things is we want our children to have less fettered access to their family members who are not us.
Yes.
They don't live near their cousins. I would like them to be able to chat with their cousins via text.
With my wife's family, with her brothers and two cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And her situation's compounded because one of her brothers lives in Japan.
Yeah. That many time zones difference really kind of screws things up. When my wife and I
we have a family Discord server.
Oh yeah, and that would be phenomenal if they had regular access to it. But
yes.
one of the issues that we've had with our kids is that they have repeatedly made poor choices regarding screen time, and so they have not gotten unfettered access to such. They don't have their own computers at this point in part because we've had to deal with financial stuff, but in part because they have not proven themselves trustworthy with the access that they had.
Yeah, I have a kid whose Chromebook is not allowed inside of his bedroom because we set it up with one account, and that account has time limits and some other restrictions on it, and
Mm-hmm.
he figured out how to add other accounts so that he could do things on it and until 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and then the next day get a call 2 hours into the school day. I have a migraine.
Yeah.
Which we go and look. Oh, there's an unauthorized account on your Chromebook, and let's take a. Oh, gee, you were on YouTube until 4:15 this morning.
You've had about 2 hours. You had a long nap. You did not have a night's sleep. That is insufficient.
So you now are prohibited from taking your Chromebook into your bedroom.
Yeah.
And your devices have devices you have access to are audited for unauthorized accounts now.
Yeah. Yep.
Sucks.
And you don't like doing it. It's not fun to have to do. Yeah.
Because you know what? His older sisters don't have that restriction because they manage it responsibly.
Yep.
He does not.
It's hard to do. It's hard to enforce. One of the reasons I hate having to do that is because I forget what I'm supposed to not let them do.
Yeah, because you're focused on other shit.
I've got a toddler I'm keeping alive. I'm trying to make sure that, I occasionally cook a real meal for my family, despite having functionally 2 or 3 ways of doing that. I've got home repairs I'm still doing.
Yep.
And in addition to that, even if everything was perfect, I would still forget because my brain is funky.
I mean, I forget those things.
Yeah.
I forget the things that I need to remind all the children because none of them have my children are all challenged my children and my spouse are all challenged in the arena of executive dysfunction.
Yeah.
Whereas I built a career out of aggressive executive function.
I have
all honesty.
My best man is one of those guys and has spent his entire adult life making things happen. It's just, it's alternately inspiring and depressing as hell. But yeah, some people are gifted in those ways. I am not one.
Even I forget, sometimes forget the things that I need to stay on top of people on because I'm focused on my own fucking tasks.
Yeah. I have a list of projects that I am trying to get done basically every day.
Every single day.
day.
I can lock into that and be very tunnel visioned and forget, I need to make sure this child has actually done his homework by going and checking that it was turned in.
Especially when we're short on sleep or have not been eating well.
You mean when we're just living on absurd amounts of caffeine?
Look, caffeine and spite.
That's my entire adult life.
Caffeine and spite are great motivators, and when you're in your 20s, when you're in your 40s, you gotta be a little more careful.
I saw recently, total sidebar, the American Heart Association has revised its recommendations that adults can safely handle regular intake of up to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day.
Huh.
And I went, huh. Well, I don't hit triple that very often. I hit double that quite often.
How much caffeine is in a Monster?
150 milligrams.
Sheet.
Bang and Rain are 300 milligrams. Rockstar is 200. Celsius is 200.
What's Echelon do?
300.
Yeah.
A 12 ounce cup of coffee is about 100, I think.
Cool. So a 16 ounce should be about 150.
I believe 120. I believe about 130, 140, something like that.
I can make that a lot stronger because I brew it myself.
I mean, my idea of morning coffee is 32 ounces.
Yeah. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, according to the American Heart Association, I only double their recommendation most days. I'm also a chronic insomniac, and I seem to make it work. And fortunately, I'm in a position where on the occasional days where I have seriously not gotten enough sleep and it is affecting my well-being, I can generally hit pause and at least take a nap. And occasionally, go to bed early. Be like, look, I'm sorry, I need to check out. Let's see. I need to catch up on comments here because Harman said earlier, rite of passage, learning your money isn't yours when you get a paycheck. Yep.
Oh, God.
And he says, I can't drink caffeine because I have no tolerance anymore. If I don't drink it first thing in the morning, I'm up all night and then some because I don't feel tired. Dude, you can't do caffeine. You're allergic to alcohol. Like, I'm lost, dude.
Yeah, how do you engage in constructive vice? Like, this is.
Says, I also don't smoke. I'm pretty much teetotal, so I take life sober. Heaven help me, I take life sober. I believe that in common parlance now, which is an interesting etymological thing of how meanings of things drift over time, is referred to as raw dogging life.
Yeah, that's a weird.
Because we grew up with that having a different, a very different and much more explicit meaning.
Yeah.
Like I see how it evolved.
I know where that'll come from.
I'm
because
still really uncomfortable when I have some teenager be like, I'm just raw dogging shit today. I'm like,
well, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Exactly.
God bless. Yeah. I honestly, I don't engage in that much creative vice, constructive vice, but the coffee thing is, I've been drinking. I was one of those guys who was
Raw dogging
yes,
life. This is why
fair,
I don't like slang. Yeah,
fair.
try having teenagers in your
Oh
house,
my
dude.
gosh, man. No, okay. I remember being a teenager and having all kinds of slang that my parents didn't get. I'm pretty sure that they did similar things growing up. I am not that surprised that there is slang I don't get. The astonishing thing is the granularity of it. That there's stuff that like you can hear it and bring it up to a teenager and they just look blankly at you like I have never heard that term before in my life.
And other times you hear them say something and you go, I know the origin of that. It was fucking Homestar Runner. And they're
Yes.
like,
What are you talking about?
what? And then somebody a little while back actually brought back the Homestar Runner website. So then, of course, I'd introduce my teenagers to it, and they're like, "This is what the internet was like when I was a baby."
Oh my gosh!
Yes,
the old lore. Don't quote me. The old magic witch. I was there when it was written. I saw the badger. You know some of that stuff. I remember. I remember the early Foamy the Squirrel videos.
Yes. Hell, one of my daughters thought she was being edgy in embroidering Nyan Cat onto the pocket of her jeans.
That's adorable.
Like, when the fuck was this edgy? She's like, no, it's like this really old thing. I'm like, oh my god, child.
You absolute fetus. Oh my gosh.
I have used that for yes. I can has cheeseburger.
Dude, older than cheeseburger. I can has bucket.
Yes. And when your kids use that and think they're being clever, you're just like, has this gone like Janko jeans and gone where it went completely out of style and is now coming back? What the hell?
Saw the remote shoppers at the grocery store in their ultra wide leg low rise jeans, and just kind of went, did we have to come back around to that?
I will admit to being a massive fan of low rise jeans, just because I'm a huge fan of the female form. And
that's fair.
And imprinted on Gwen Stefani in the late 90s.
Also fair.
Like, I see this and I'm like, is this a good time to be a teenage boy again?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
The answer is no, but I'm seeing I see the occasional glimmer of hope that I'm like, you might get a piece of what I grew up with. And I'm happy for you.
The one that kills me is hearing Stone Temple Pilots and Pearl Jam on the classic rock station.
This is one of the reasons I avoid broadcast radio. Also because Clear Channel destroyed the entire fucking industry.
Oh, it's great. None of the local channels all the local channels are local channels. They're not Clear Channel at all.
Really? Well, last time I perused any radio stations, we don't have any of those in Salt Lake except for the classical music channel that is operated by BYU.
Yeah.
Which, so let's make sure we're talking about applicability of this notion of graduated failure and age appropriate failure, allowing it, because school is the easy one. Parents, all of you, your child's GPA is not their social credit score.
It's true.
If your obsession is that your child gets a 4.0 so they can get into a good college, you're fucking wrong.
Yeah. Look, the crazy part is if they're not legacy to Harvard or Yale or such, they're probably not getting into what you would consider a good school. And that doesn't matter.
Dave Kraske, who was on the show with us a couple of weeks ago, did a Substack article a couple of weeks back. Look, it doesn't matter if your kid gets into a good college. And the answer was, with a few exceptions for a few super competitive industries, such as being an attorney, the answer is within 5 years of graduation, unless they are a legacy with connections that they are able to leverage. As far as career advancement and income, within 5 years, the difference between a kid who went to a community college and got a degree in the same program as somebody who went to a college that they paid $50,000 a semester for is equal.
Yep. Look, and here's the crazy part. Your local community college almost certainly has things like construction science classes and welding classes and
diesel tech.
Our local one has
machining
HVAC classes, HVAC and electrical stuff. And you know what you could do starting as a welder, quite well,
especially in Texas, if you're willing to go work on pipelines.
If you're willing to work oil pipelines, or if you're willing to do agricultural and travel for it,
you can walk on at $80,000-$90,000 a year and be making 100 to 150 in 5 years.
Yep, piece of cake.
Without carrying $50,000+ in student loans.
Yeah.
But so your child's 4.0 GPA is not actually that important. Even for admissions for most colleges, it's not that important.
Yes.
You need to let them do badly at a few things.
Yeah.
And you need to let them do badly, not just at grades. You need to let them do badly at a job.
Let them do badly at sports. Let them do badly in their chosen activities.
Do badly in social situations. When your kids start dating,
you are there for advice. That's what your job is.
In some cases, it's going to be appropriate to be like, hey, do you understand how the dynamics that I'm seeing here? You got to stop this. Or say, you know what, you cannot affiliate with this person.
Right.
I had one kid that one of my daughters was friends with from playing in the jazz band at school. When she was a sophomore, he was a senior. He graduated, and then he's 19 years old and starts engaging in stalkerish behavior. He's like, hey, you cannot be friends with him.
Yeah.
This is not okay. There were things happened. Nothing nothing irreparable to my daughter, but things happened. And I said, look, you cannot associate with this person.
Yeah. And
he has shown by his actions that you are not safe being around him and that he cannot manage himself. And she thought, oh, we're just friends. Well, no, he did not think that.
And for their sake, do not use phrases like, as long as you are living under my roof, because the average teenager sees that as an instant out.
As an invitation.
Fine. Then I'm no longer living under your roof. Bye.
You don't want that.
No.
I have, with the consent of parents, sheltered a runaway or two.
Mm-hmm.
Where fortunately I had some sort of relationship with the parents. I actually had a parent call me and be like, my child says that she's moving into your house. I went, that's news to me. What's going on? And that kid actually lived in my house for 3 or 4 months until she decided that the rules we had put in place were unlivable, and she moved out. And her parents now hate me because I didn't stop her from moving out when I told her that you will comply with this guideline or you will not have a place to stay here. She said, okay, then I'm moving out. Yeah. Which is kind of hypocritical because her parents couldn't get her to stay at home either. Of course, a big part of that is her mother's a abusive alcoholic. But
and really what it seems to come down to is teach them how to value themselves.
Yes. And teach them how to work through difficult situations and difficult emotions as opposed to running away from them.
Yes.
My parents are telling me things that make me feel bad, so I'm running away.
Yeah.
you do not want to raise a child who that is how they react to distress.
Yeah.
Because they're making manifestly poor choices, and choices that endanger the other children in the house.
Yes, and that's another one when you are going to be justified in ejecting a child, is when
Yes.
they're making decisions that endanger their younger siblings
or themselves. Yeah, and Harriman points out, make sure they have social situations. Don't let
Yes.
them be a shut-in. Yes, that is. I mean, that's another part of developing distress tolerance is especially the COVID kids. You know, who the last of what I'm going to call the COVID kids. You know, who were 10 plus when all that happened, are now
Yeah.
in high school. But a lot of them have a ton of social anxiety.
Yeah, and reasonably so.
I mean, I understand it. I empathize with it. I mean, hell, most of the time, I don't want to go deal with random people.
No.
I have my dozen people that I really like and I want to spend time with, and I don't feel a whole lot of motivation to go out and deal with the general public, because the general public's fucking stupid, and they annoy the shit out of me most of the time. But when you have a kid who's like, no, I just want to play Minecraft. No, you need to do things outside the house. You need to interact with your peers. And you need to interact with peers in ways that are other than playing on a shared Minecraft server.
Right. Those can be decent things, to be clear.
With moderation.
Yeah.
As you know, moderation in pretty much everything. So I mean that may be the failure there, is that they feel really awkward in social situations and want to just avoid them. Yeah. Well, yeah, you know what? You might embarrass yourself. You might.
Yes.
I can tell you now that even in high school, doing something embarrassing that everybody remembers wears off.
Yeah. If you choose to go to any of your high school reunions,
no.
Look, I'm fair. I'm curious, but I've never been in a position to see. I hated middle school. High school was less bad, but if you choose to go, people will probably remember that, but they're going to remember it fondly.
Yes.
And frankly, your kids don't know how their peers actually view them.
No, they don't. They generally have a really warped perception of how everybody sees them.
Yeah.
You know, often the kid who's like, everybody hates me.
No,
actually, that is not the case.
Yeah. Most of the ones who are aware of you think fairly well of you.
Yep.
And the vast majority of people don't know you exist.
Yes.
And that's true of most people.
And I empathize with Harriman here. He says, I used to work retail. My job has me proofreading deposition transcripts. I have to fight hard against misanthropy. Dude, if I were involved in the legal system on a regular basis, there is no question I would be an unapologetic, angry, and loud misanthrope.
Yeah.
I have learned that I cannot consistently deal with the dregs of humanity without losing my fucking mind.
My brother-in-law graduated from the law enforcement academy and did not go into law enforcement because he had a realistic view of him having power and dealing with the worst of humanity. He said, I would end up in prison fairly quickly, because he would see people who, just the world would be at a better place if they weren't breathing anymore.
Yes, there are some people who, if put in that position, would attempt to become the Punisher.
Yeah.
And that's not a healthy place for you.
No.
So this applies across all domains of life. School and work are the easy examples.
Yeah,
There are
absolutely.
lots and lots of other situations where you need to allow your child to be uncomfortable. You need to let them fuck things up, and then
Yep.
you help them pick up the pieces. I think the most important part is to, one, empathize with them.
Yeah.
I understand why you're pissed off by this. I understand why this makes you feel really sad. I understand why you're embarrassed.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
can you can even, as is age appropriate, relay similar experiences that happened to you.
Yes.
I understand this really sucks. Now, let's take a look at this. What did we do well? What did we do wrong? How do we not make these same mistakes in the
Mhm.
future? This is the same thing that you should be doing with yourself every time you fuck something up. Every time that you let your emotions get in the way of treating your kids with love and fairness,
Hmm.
you go, okay, what played into this? How do I prevent that from happening again? Sometimes it involves some managing of situations. Sometimes it means that you step in a little bit earlier so that things don't escalate. Sometimes it's, I have to better control myself, and you learn to lock that down and express it in an appropriate manner. There's always a lesson to be learned from failure, and
Yes.
our job is to help them deal with the emotional fallout, to provide an empathetic ear, and you can absolutely commiserate with how this sucks or how this does not feel good and I don't like it.
Hmm.
So you know what? I don't like it either. I don't like watching you deal with this. But what are our opportunities for learning here?
Yes.
You know, in one situation with one of my daughters, it was, okay, you need to understand some of the realities of how males interact with really pretty girls. And you
Yeah.
and while you are certainly not at fault for the things that happened here, you need to understand that being a gorgeous young woman has effects in how other people behave.
Yep.
Like, no, you're not responsible for this,
Yeah.
but understand that there are realities here that are not fair,
Yeah.
and you need to be aware of them. And she learned that lesson. It was, I hated having to have that conversation
Yeah.
because it's manifestly unfair. She has no control over being born fucking gorgeous, and the fact that far too many people think with their genitals as opposed to their brains. But that effect exists whether it's fair or not, and so she has to understand that that's a thing that happens and be aware of it, and not not victim blaming or anything, but understand that reality exists and you have to interact with it as things are, not as how they should be ideally. Lots of
Yes.
life is unfair. Lots of times you get stuck with the shit end of the stick through no fault of your own.
Hmm.
And you still have to be able to deal with that. Sometimes you get stuck with the shit end of the stick because you did something stupid. And either way, you have to work with it because the world is what it is. You can never throw a big enough tantrum that the world will become the ideal of what you think it is.
Yep.
And you can either live in that reality and learn to function in it, or you can just be non-functional. And at some point, not at some point, someone, everybody's going to stop subsidizing you being just incapable of dealing with reality.
Yeah.
So
And as parents, our job is to help them understand that.
yes, sometimes life is really fucking unfair,
Yeah.
and it sucks. And we still have to deal with that because that's reality. We live in we absolutely live in a fallen world,
Hmm.
and things don't work how they should,
Yeah.
and things are not fair. and it sucks. But failure and discomfort are not your enemy. They are the tools through which your children learn to be functional adults.
And they are the tools that they learn to be functional adults most quickly. Look,
Yes.
If you are a former gifted child, then you know of what I speak when I say being really good at things while you're growing up can be detrimental to your progress later.
It can be, because you don't learn what it feels like to get it wrong.
Yeah,
When you're the kid-
until you're making mistakes that definitely affect your future.
Yes. When you're the kid who can sit there in class and read a novel and then pass the test anyways with a 97,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes adulthood reaches up and smacks you across the face. You go, "What the fuck was that?"
Yep.
Endeavor to not let your child become that person. Let them experience failure in manageable circumstances
Yes.
that are age appropriate.
Yep.
And help them build that distress tolerance, because ultimately that is what will, I mean, honestly, and speaking as somebody who's hired and fired hundreds of people, the capacity for handling distress and to be able to learn from your mistakes is the biggest indicator of somebody's success as an adult. And by success, I mean being functional and independent. Not necessarily wealthy. There's a whole lot of things that play into that. But being functional and independent and capable of managing oneself comes as a result of tolerance for distress and the ability to learn when things go wrong. And as Harriman says here, your teachers are wrong about the world being nice and friendly. I'm sorry, I had to realize that too. And I'm telling you now because you're not ready, but I want you to be more ready than I was. And that is the point, is we are giving them a better start than we may have had. And that is success as a parent.
Yes.
If your child is better prepared for adulthood, for managing themselves than you were, that means that they are not going to make the same mistakes you did.
Yep.
And if they have the ability to make mistakes, learn from them, and move on, if they have the ability to deal with the fact that the world is really fucking unfair sometimes, they will be okay.
Yeah.
Whether you are there to help them or whether you die before they really blossom in adulthood, which sounds like a really depressing way to end it, but that's kind of been my mindset for a long time. I had to be prepared to die at any time.
Yeah, and that comes down to a. I'm always wary of saying things like "live in the moment," but
there's some validity to it.
Carpe diem. Seize the day. Don't say I'm going to do this piece later. You may not get later.
You may not. It is unsure.
Yeah.
And so, guys, that is going to be it for the benefits of failure. I'm glad that we divided our potential topic into 2 shows, because we're going to do a whole corollary to this that we would not have kept it to the time limit. So if you are finding value in our discussions, please like, follow, subscribe on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Substack. We've got good articles coming out on Substack. Show up for the live stream and participate in the comments. We'd love to have more than one. We'd love to have more than one person in the comments. Not that we don't love Harriman and his insights.
Absolutely.
We'd love to have more. So with that, guys, I am going to pull up our disclaimer, and we're going to put this one to bed. All right, that is it for tonight's episode. Thank you for joining us. Quick reminder, all opinions expressed here are solely those of the individual speakers, hosts, and guests alike, and do not represent the views of any affiliated person, organization, company, sponsor, or other entity. This show is provided for entertainment purposes only. Nothing discussed is professional advice of any kind. Always consult a qualified professional and use your own best judgment before acting on anything we've talked about. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next episode.